Hey everyone, hope you all are doing great. So in today's video, we are going to discuss my strategy for indirect tax law since a lot of you all had been asking about it. So let's quickly get going. The first thing is that this paper is perceived to be slightly easier and the concepts are slightly grasped much better than the other subjects, which is why people tend to neglect this a little bit. But let me remind you that this paper comes at the end, that is the 8th paper. And by the time you reach here, you would have gone through 15 days of stress and frustration of the exam, which is why you have to be very, very ready for this paper and you have to ensure that you do your revisions very well. Now, moving on to the study material or the base material which I referred. So I did my classes from J.K. Shah classes where Mahesh Pattar sir had taught us this. And basically during classes, he used to explain and give us handwritten notes. So these handwritten notes were very, very helpful to me during my first read and the subsequent revisions, as well as during the 1.5 day. But in case anyone is planning to do a self-study for the subject, it's very much possible and it's very convenient also because the institute study material for this subject especially is very, very self-explanatory and student-friendly. But you might get a doubt that, the study material is pretty bulky and you don't have any summary book for that matter. But after every chapter in the module, there is a section called Let Us Recapitulate, which basically summarizes the whole chapter. And this is super helpful for your revisions. So what you can do is during your first aid, you read the entire content of the chapter. Then you move on to Let Us Recapitulate and see whether everything from the content, all the major parts are covered there. In case not, you write it there with pencil, or if it's lengthy, you make a cross reference in the main content and you should be all ready with your summary notes as well. So that's about the study mat. Now moving on to the first read and the subsequent read, as always reiterated, you have to ensure that you do 100% of the syllabus. And here people tend to skip FTP, customs, all the small and the procedural aspects of GST. Now, let me remind you that these are very much tested in your paper. In fact, during our attempt, there were 2-3 MCQs from time of supply as well. These are chapters which you probably think will not be asked in finals because you would have already been tested in IPCC on those chapters. But the institute does target these unconventional chapters as well. So you have to do everything and you have to ensure you can do 100% of their syllabus right from the first read. And also a lot of students have, read it during the first read, but they didn't get time subsequently and they left it. So what I would advise is you make voice memos of all the small chapters, say in customs, or you make a 30 to 40 minute voice memo of FTP so that you do FTP also during your 1.5 day. Because if you don't, then you won't be able to remember or gauge it even if you've done it earlier, and that will be a big hit on your marks. So that's it about the study mat and about your revisions. Now let's quickly go through what all summaries I had made for my last minute revision. As always, let me remind you that this is just for last minute revision and this does not cover the conceptual or the main concept part, for which you'll have to refer the main book. Just a minute, let me share my screen. Okay, so this is basically the main approach which I followed for GST. So whenever there is any question, there has to be a stepwise sequence in GST because it is integration of all the provisions. So what you should do is your first step should be to determine whether it's a supply, which you determine from section 7 read with schedule 1, which is about no consideration, but still it's a supply. Then you check whether it's in your negative list, that is schedule 3. In case it's in schedule 3, you need not go to schedule 2 because it's not basically neither supply of goods nor supply of services. Then if it is not in schedule 3, then you check schedule 2 whether it is supply of goods or services. So this gives you a bifurcation. After that, you check whether such supply is exempt or not, because after you determine whether it's goods or services, you generally have only exemption of services in your syllabus. So then you check whether such supply of service is exempt or not. If it is not exempt, then you check whether such supply is interstate or intrastate, considering your place of supply provisions, post which you check whether it falls under forward charge and reverse charge to determine that who has the liability to pay GST in this case. After which you check whether the GST is leviable in the current period, that is you determine the time of supply, because if there is a case where the time of supply is not in the current month, then it will not fall in your GST liability of the current month, and hence this is also important in a big question. And then finally, you check the amount on which GST is leviable. That is, you apply the value of supply provisions to determine the final amount on which you apply the rate of GST. So this is your basic structure as to how you should approach a large question. because you have to follow each step, and if you miss any step, then your final answer will not match. So this is what I had followed. Now moving on to the limits and section list which I had made. So I just written all the important sections because it's not possible to remember everything, but you can quickly refer to the section. So basically first is IGST Act, and then we have the CGST Act with the schedule numbers and with chapter wise important sections. Okay, then we move on to place of supply. So I made detailed section number notes for place of supply. This is for goods, section 10. Then we have section 12 and section 13 bifurcation. And then we have 12 and 13 ka all the subsection wise and the head wise place of supply determination for specific types of services. This is basically just to give you an overview, and so that you can study it from your content very well. There is no special need. Even if you don't remember the subsection number, it's fine, but it's just to kind of give a base or a gist of the entire chapter. Then we move on to value of supply, wherein again I had made a detailed section-wise list, as well as of the valuation rules and the special methods of valuation as well, so that I don't even skip anything. So when I am doing a chapter, I first refer to this sheet and then I go to each concept, so that no concept is skipped, because there may be times where I'm referring different concepts from different books. Then we move on to exemptions. So again, exemptions, there are a lot of entries, and most of the people don't remember, and it's fine not to remember. But I had this thing that I wanted to remember the important entry numbers, which is why I just made a list of, say, some 10 to 12 entry numbers, which I found very important, so that I could remember it. Now, again, for exemptions, you won't get a lot of time during your 1.5 day to do exemption specifically, although you can quickly refer. But what I had done is I ensure that 2-3 hours before the exam, what I do is I remember the basic limits in my exemption. So let's go to the next page and I can show you. Yeah. So here, if you see, for government services, the limit is 5,000, old age home is 25,000 per month. Then right to use natural resources, there's a date you have to remember. Viability gap funding, there's a year, there's a number of years which you have to remember. So all these limit related exemptions, I had written it down separately so that I can quickly refer it, and it may help me in my MCQs as well. So this is all of that. Then moving on to the list of form numbers which I have made for GST, quickly refer. This is not very, very important, and only if you have extra time would you want to remember all these form numbers. That's it. Moving on to customs, these are the important section numbers which you should try to remember for customs. And this is that was Customs Act, this is Customs Tariff Act. Then these are customs rules. So just the important rules, so that you can write the entire. So when you're writing customs valuation rules, you write customs valuation determination of value of imported goods 2007. So that will give a very, very good impression in the minds of the examiner. Moving on to the common topics. So for the procedural common topics, the advance ruling, demands, refunds, and all of that, where sometimes you have GST and customs both going together, say for provisional assessment as well. And that's why you tend to get confused among both. So I made a summary where I refer all the limits together. So you can refer this if you want and make your own notes. I'm not discussing it in detail. This was the penalty provision, section 73 and 74 show cause notice. Now moving on to customs limits. So even for customs, you tend to skip a lot of stuff and there's too much to remember. So again, I had basically summarized all the limits so that I can quickly refer it. Limits, penalties, bill of entry ka time limit, interest ka rate, interest ka time limit, all the procedural aspect, when is the liability to pay or the due date of paying customs duty, say in case there's provisional assessment or in case bill of entry is returned back, or in case there is reassessment, all of that. Then all the 3 types of duty, safeguard, anti-subsidy, and anti-dumping, and basically made a columnar difference between amounts, all because there are cases where they ask this in MCQ, and they did ask in our attempt as well. Then duty drawback, again, this is very important. So all the important concepts here. Then baggage. And then this is relevant date for imports and relevant date for exports, rate of exchange and rate of duty. And then this is, so basically under each section, who has the authority to kind of give the custom station, custom area, who has the authority to issue rules, notifications, regulations, circular, all of that. Just the regulatory authority for each. Now moving on to, so this is something which I had made because in our May attempt, we had different provisions under Rule 43 of ITC where there's reversal in case of capital goods. And for November, we had an amendment here, which was very important. Although it was very conceptual, but it was slightly confusing. So what I had done is I had made 8 separate cases and I had written the treatment under each of the case. So in case you're confused on this part, you can refer it. I've covered it in much detail here. So all the 8 cases. And cover section 18 as well. So that you don't get confused between section 18 and Rule 43 because a lot of students do get confused there. And finally, this is also something which I found very useful and very handy whenever I was revising, because the special category states or special states are different for different provisions and there are different limits. So even for registration, now we have 3 limits, 10 lakh, 20 lakh, 40 lakh. And for composition scheme, there are separate provisions for certain states. So I have made a summary here where I have kind of marked which are the special states for each of these categories and what is the limit for each of them. And I've also defined aggregate turnover here because aggregate turnover on a pan-India basis is a very, very relevant definition and which is used very exhaustively in registration and in composition scheme as well. And these are chapters which are very frequently asked in exams. So you can expect a question on registration, on composition scheme, on ITC for sure. And there'll be a question, a computation question, which will basically cover all the provisions as we discussed in our approach. It will cover the definition of supply, it will cover exemptions, it will cover negative lists, it will cover place of supply, time of supply, value of supply, and then finally ITC provisions also coming in, value of supply as well. So you have to be thorough with everything. And I think in IDT, it's important to solve a lot of questions. So you can either refer all the past RDPs, MTPs and past papers, or you can refer your coaching classes question bank, or you can refer the institute has basically uploaded questions for practice, which are basically a compilation of the past RTPs, MTPs only. There are very few questions which are new there in the questions for practice. And these are basically amended as per your attempt as well. So you can refer those and those will serve as a very good practice. And so when you solve questions, also make sure that the flow of the answer is very, very well defined and you do not kind of have an ad hoc answer, because although your final answer will match, the flow and the way you write the answer is also something which is very important, and the way your thought process works and whether you write working notes for each of them. So in IDT again, valuation of supply is something which all of us know in customs and in GST. But for each value or for each step, you have to write notes. You have to write why you took something. So if you're saying your value is transaction value, then you have to write as per this section, except for say related party transactions, the value is taken as transaction value. So you write a sentence for each of the step, you write reasonings, and that is when you will finally get marks and not only based on your final answer. That's it for IDT. I think this is a subject which is liked by all, so I don't need to kind of give special motivation or booster for this subject. And yeah, just refer everything and do it with conviction, and I'm sure you'll be able to crack it. Good luck, and make sure you do customs as well, you do FTP as well, and you do all the procedural chapters as well, because in our case, what had happened is MCQs were slightly difficult, and I found that I would not be able to score a lot of marks in MCQ. But what had happened is question 5 and 6 were very procedural, so they were from the common topics, but they were very, very simpler and very easy to crack. So I had started with those questions so that I score good marks and I gained the confidence there. And then I moved on to the computation question. Then I moved on to question 1. Also, here there's a lot of focus on amendments. IDT is full of amendments. So make sure you do all the amendments. There are rules on ITC reversal. There are new limits for exemption. There are many things which are covered in amendments, and they are very, very frequently asked in exams. So make sure you cover those as well. All right, that's it from my end. Thank you and good luck.